Hello guys. Today we're going to talk about Fear Street Part 2, which is 1978. This one came out the same year, 2021, rated R, hour 49. This movie has 6.7 out of 10 on IMDb with about 63,000-ish user votes. Has 61% on Metacritic with 163 critics. It's directed by the same person. This one does star a couple different people for the most part, only because this movie is pretty much a flashback movie, and it goes into the mythos of what's going on in this town. Now, I heavily suggest watching part one because of my review of that, because a lot of what I'm talking about here is in connection to that. So keep that in mind. So Sadie Sink's the one that does star as a lead in here. She was also in she was in Stranger Things. She played Max, so she's in that. This there, cool to see that, and also Emily Rudd, who was also in Hunters. So, in the movie on Rotten Tomatoes, the movie has 87% by critics, so a bump up there with 109 critics and 80% by audiences with 1,000 audience people. So a huge jump from the part one. Critics' consensus: a smart and subversive twist on slasher horror. Fear Street Part 2, 1978, shows that summer camp has never been scary thanks to stellar performances from Sadie Sink, Emily Rudd, and Ryan Simpkins. The audience says, with great acting, interesting ideas, and strong shades of the Friday the 13th, the Fear Street follow-up actually improves on the original. So yeah, so I'd say this one was definitely better, and I think, and that's the thing too. Like, this one was really interesting because it still had it still went into the mythos, but it truly felt like more of like a really, and I think why it works so well is that, like I said, like, these characters are good characters. You know, they're everything's, and pretty much what happens, how we trigger this flashback is that there's this character that the group discovers kind of survived an incident that they went through similarly back in the day. So they finally got a chance to talk to her about it, and she relays that story about what happened, and it goes back to 1978, where she relates what happened. So that's how that happens, and there's and it's great because, like, the main thing of this is really the character telling the flashback. It's her and her sister at the summer camp, and it goes from there. Um, and a lot of mythos get revealed, not everything, but a good chunk do. And this is when I feel like the trilogy starts to hook you in a bit, because I mean, the ending of the first one had a good little cliffhanger at the end, or not cliffhanger, but not cliffhanger. That's a bad choice of words, but more like it does a good job of leading you into this one, and then you go watch this one. And I think this is when the trilogy really sinks its teeth in, because here's the thing, like, they did a great job of making these characters good characters. Like, they're believable, they're acted well, and there's a good, like, thing going on between the two leads, the sisters, like that good arc with them. And I feel like they just really hit the nail on the head with this. And like I said, this series does a great job to make you feel sorry for them. Like, makes you feel bad, because even though not every character gets explored like mega in depth, they are portrayed as likable and believable as good people. And when that kind of stuff happens to them, you legit feel for them, and you do want to see them get out. And that's the key with these movies, is that they make the main characters likable, and that's the big thing. But at the same time, it also makes the horror stuff and the mythology and everything so compelling at the same time. Um, also, I almost forgot, like, on. I also forgot to mention the last. No, I did mention it. So it's also, this one's also on Netflix, only on Netflix, and it's not going to be on DVD or Blu-ray. So that's something to keep in mind there. But yeah, like, this one, the reason why this one did better than the last one, I think this, like I said, this one put their hooks in for the addiction stuff. So by the time this ends, everyone wanted to watch part three. And to be honest, I think this one bit the retro bug a bit. Like, the '94 one was definitely retro, But I feel like this one really really got the grips on it a little bit because it did legit feel. And like I said, I think the main characters and I think the audience connected with them a bit better than with part one because I feel like this one, the characters weren't so. I will say this, like a lot of the main characters in the first one, like they were diverse and they weren't all angsty. It was mostly one or a couple of them, but I feel like the tone in that one was definitely angst driven. I feel like with this one, I feel like there was more of a mix of emotions. I feel like there was definitely a lot more use in like how and stuff like that. And also I think this one just had more of a and also I think this one's a little bit more unpredictable because in the first one, like while you definitely wanted characters to survive. I think you also deep down you kind of had an idea like yeah these characters might die, but I don't know. I hope they don't, but they might. This one like you legit hope. Like I feel like this one just is framed and shot and paced in a way that makes it what happens really feel you really feel it. And I don't think the acting's better in this one, but I feel like the writing and the characters I think hits home a little bit more because I feel like the first one like what was happening to the main characters, what they were going on in their life and stuff. I feel like it was aimed toward more a specific group of people in some ways. I mean, it could be geared toward anybody, but you could tell that it was kind of a certain way in some ways. But I feel like with this one, I feel like a lot more people can connect and relate to what goes on with these main characters than with part one, to an extent. To an extent. But in a lot of ways, I'm not quite sure at the moment. I might have to rewatch them why this one was seen as better. I think because this one I think another thing too is I think people got wanted more of this kind of thing where it's just like updated like styles of horror from a certain time periods, retro style. I think it gave more people that. I feel like 94 was kind of more of a snippet, and I think people wanted more of what this was offering. Now, part three, that one's going to be interesting because I'm not quite sure. Remember how people like that one. I know for the most part, part one was people's least favorite. It was still good, but people acknowledge that part two and three were better. Now, which one was the best? I hear mix about. So we're gonna talk about part three next time. We're gonna see what happens. In terms of anything key, a lot of stuff gets revealed in this. Part three, of course, everything gets revealed for the most part in that one. So try to do a good job avoiding that. Other than that, there's not really much else. I think the only thing to keep in mind with part two as well is is that I feel like there's a lot more. I don't know. It just I think it just hits a certain way. I feel like part two does more to make you feel for the characters. I feel like part one I think was definitely also I think part one was told more in a kind of a conventional way, and I think we're kind of used to it. I feel like this one part two, because it was doing a little bit more with the mythos. I think it kind of I feel like the conventional thing that it was doing felt a little bit more original and unique and a little refreshing compared to part one. I don't know. It's kind of one of those things where you kind of have to dig a bit because this whole trilogy is just so solid. I feel like any stuff that some people may have problems with, you kind of have to dig a little bit to kind of see where they're coming from. And if you have to go that far with it, that's a sign that it was a pretty well executed trilogy. And so far it still does, but we're going to talk about part three in the next video for sure. And but yeah, guys, thanks for watching. In case you want to chat with anyone at the camping company and you don't want to use the YouTube comment section, we do have a couple options. First one is we have a Discord channel. Find a link to that about page / about section of our channel. We also have a community tab in our channel as well. You can access that anywhere at any time. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Please subscribe and like the videos, and have a good day.